What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age! Stay cool, bird boy. Cool party. Alright, everyone. Chill. Chill. Winter has come at last.
Greetings from Alaska, my fellow godlies. I'm Vance from Starcom, and today we're going to be taking a look at a Warframe that almost didn't win the poll, and that's Frost Prime. Now guys, I'm really not exaggerating about this poll. I did not expect it to tie for as long as it did. I had to promote this thing, I had to stall with other videos, I had to do whatever I could to make sure that there was a decisive victor, because it kept amounting down to like 5 to 6, 11 to 10. It was very, very close for the longest time. So Frost, by the skin of his teeth, pulled this one out, and here we are. So getting straight into this build, we're going to do something different that we've never done before in a god build, and we're going to go with redirection. Frost Prime is a special case. He's a very special case, so I'll get into that here in a second. But because we're going to run the max through redirection, we're also going to be running Arcane Barrier. Now this is the only Arcane that we're using in this build, and it's probably not going to do a whole hell of a lot, just one. So you're going to need to stack this baby. You're going to need to try and do raids or buy it, whatever you choose to do. Get a lot of Arcane Barriers because it's only going to matter if you have multiple. Arcane Barrier is a arcane enhancement that provides completely restored shields after incoming damage. You can't beat that with redirection. It's really going to be very tanky. It's going to absorb a lot of abuse to the shields, which is something you don't see often. And arguably you could say that you could theoretically put this on a Mag Prime build as well. But if you've got a Trinity, like an EV Trinity in the lobby, especially if you're running raids, which is sort of what this build is geared towards, it's really well-rounded. It goes across the board, but it's going to perform magnificently in raids. So while you're farming for the barrier, you're going to realize as you start leveling up your Arcane Barrier and an EV Trinity gives you those over shields, this is going to be incredibly effective for you. Now we talked about redirection, and now we're going to get straight into the build. You're going to run with rejuvenation because with this particular build, we don't have anything to put our life back, and we don't have a lot of it as is. So rejuvenation is going to take care of that. Cunning Drift is going to be a mod that we choose specifically for the power range, along with Overextended and Stretch. Streamline Fleeting Expertise to make sure that we can keep going in the fight for as cheap casting as possible. Now, if you guys recall this previous event that just went by, and for the unfortunate few who are viewing on consoles as this video is being uploaded, during the end when you had to fight Misery and you had to do the 15 waves for the Lacero skin, we were capped out at 50 energy. And the impressive thing about this build is it was completely unaffected by that. We were still able to spam the powers. And a big shout out goes to Pathless, who pretty much invented and patented this build, who came up with the idea and decided, hey, this is the best way to run Frost. It completely breaks meta, and it's not at all what normal Frosts do. So with that being said, Chilling Globe is going to serve a totally different purpose for us than it would the normal community. You're going to find that people are going to praise your Frost because issues that existed with other Frosts when bombards were parading the pod, and that core globe was just getting pelted. Everybody on the inside was suffering splash damage. And with a big bubble like what we've got here, that isn't going to be so much of an issue anymore. So you got to play strategically, you got to play defensively. When playtesting, it is most effective to put chilling globes in areas of entrance for enemies. So, for example, in interception missions, excavations, defenses, mobile defenses, anywhere the enemies are pouring out of the doorways, you're going to put a chilling globe right there, because it's going to do two things. It's going to slow the enemy down, and it may, there's a 50% chance to freeze them. And what this is going to do for the mission overall is slow down the pace, give your teammates a little bit more support, give them time to rest, time to recuperate. It's going to slow it down because it gets really chaotic and you get overwhelmed really quickly, and this is going to do away with that. The only other thing that I can provide to why we use the mods that we used is the fact that we want to be spamming Avalanche all the time because it's going to work really well with our weapons. Moving into our weapons, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that arguably the only thing that works really well with Avalanche is a Supra. Only thing that I can provide to the Supra build is that when you're spamming your Avalanche and you're freezing your enemies, this is going to do a lot of damage. I mean, the gun itself does a lot of damage, but it's really going to work really well in tangent with frozen enemies because it's the 1-2 punch. You freeze them and you go straight up to them and shatter the crap out of their ice parts with Supra. Now with that being said, that trick doesn't work so well with Acrid. From playtesting, when I froze them and then I proceeded to try and take them out with Acrid, I didn't see the status proccing as well. Maybe because they were already affected by being frozen. In that case, I would tell you to use Freeze or Ice Wave instead to trigger your Embedded Catalyzer, one of the new event mods. And what this is going to do is, even level 100 bombards that you're focusing attention on, you're going to be dumping your entire magazine into their face. And something's going to distract you, and you're going to divert your attention to that and start shooting on that, and then come back to the bombard and realize it's already dead. See, the thing here is DPS is confusing with Acrid because of the nerf that came in, and it's unfortunate because I remember a time where Acrid was the best gun in the game, but it's kind of been nerfed, kind of been buffed. It depends on how you look at it. Now the DPS isn't all at once. It procs, and then it continuously does damage, sort of like a Serum. So what's going to end up happening is you're going to need to cast Freeze or Ice Wave, something along those lines, to proc your Embedded Catalyzer, and then you're going to just dump your entire clip into enemies and just watch their health just get drained away. Last thing that we're going to do for certain with this build is we're going to use Mios. I was half tempted to cover this with the Excalibur build, because this is a very impressive weapon, guys. I mean, you can manage to hit crits and status, and it just doesn't get a whole lot better than that. Plus, it speeds up really nicely with Berserker, and you're going to be hitting crits through the roof 24/7. Any enemies that have been frozen, like we discussed before, you have two different ways to combat them. You can either shatter them to pieces with your Supra, or you can slice them to bits with the Mios. And either technique is going to work really well. So in closing, a lot of people play Frost as a tank. And let's be honest here. Let's be completely honest here. That's really not going to scale well for long duration runs. Sure, you can go, level 30 enemies, level 60 enemies, even level 90 enemies, you can get away with that. But if you want to go any further beyond that, say you're really crazy and you want to spend 7 hours on T4 survival, I'm not saying it could be done, but it's more likely to be done with this build because you're more dependent upon using your skills and just kind of keeping the enemies at bay, just keeping them immobilized and doing as much damage while they're immobilized. Really, ideally, the one thing that you want to use it for is providing shields, providing choke points, adding that extra ice status on top of the status that you'll be doing with your weapons, it's going to deliver a really big punch. You're almost guaranteed to not be doing the damage of the team with, you know, DPS frames like Excalibur, Wukong, and Valkyr dominating the battlefield. But that's okay, that's not what we're aiming for. With this build in particular, we are aiming to be support, and as much as you may or may not object to this being a Frost fan, you can test it yourself, and you will see that it will be perfectly viable. It's going to last you, it's going to do you wonders in raid missions when you're farming to get your additional barriers. It's going to work really great in defense missions. You're going to find that this is not one of those god builds that's going to go on the all-out assault, so you're not going to be expecting all-outright damage. And the whole reason why I've contributed the whole ending of this video to that explanation is because I get a lot of commenters that tell me that things are better specifically because of damage. Damage isn't everything. In fact, damage is a very little aspect in this build, in this setup. If you're playing Frost, you need to utilize what he does the absolute best. Can he damage? Yes, but is it the ideal thing to do going into late game? No. He plays support the best. And since he does that really, really well, we're just going to be focusing on doing as much damage as we can while, you know, providing CC and extra status. So if you liked this video and found this helpful, you know, support me with that thumbs up, share to your friends, get it stirring, and definitely head over to our Facebook group page and participate in the next vote, which is going to be going on, which is Nyx versus Necros. And it looks to be an early blowout. It looks like Necros may take it home, so if any of you Nyx fans are out there and you really want to turn the tables on Necros fans and get things going the other way, now's your opportunity. I'm Vance from StarCom. Until next time.
You have video of your scrubby clanmates?
Holy shit, I sent him flailing. Yo, he took off like a 747. That was not a fun day for him.
It might have been. Never know. Maybe his dream was to fly.
I just put 10 minutes in his flights log.